Shakespeare that we've been reading. So what I was looking for on the works cited page was 2 or 3 plays by Shakespeare. What several of the students did was they cited the overall edition that we were working from. They didn't cite the individual plays. So when they quoted a play, they just put the name of the editor. Well, that's completely wrong. Okay? We'll talk about that in a moment. So, title. All of you did this, so none of you got an automatic F. I have had students many times before not produce a title, and I gave them one. So, and most of your titles, if I remember correct, were pretty good. Or they were at least, they told me something about it. You know, a title's like a roadmap. It tells your reader where you're going. It gives a reader an idea of what you're writing about. So your topics were compare and contrast Gandalf and Saruman and their attitude toward power. Notice the second half of that, because a couple of you compared Gandalf and Saruman and said nothing about power. Well, that's what you're supposed to be comparing, their attitudes about power. A pretty boring title would be a comparison of Gandalf and Saruman and their attitudes about power. I mean, you can take the entire sentence for it, okay? Intro. So every paper after the title needs to have an introduction. What's that introduction do? That introduction gives you in a paragraph what the whole paper is going to say. It's like a summary, okay? The paragraph usually ends with your thesis. Somebody tell me what a thesis is.
Your main idea.
Louder.
Your main idea.
Keep going.
The points you're going to prove throughout the paper.
Point you're going to prove about the paper. You're almost there.
It's the main point you're going to use.
Okay, keep going though. How do you want that main point expressed?
Clearly.
Clearly? Very good. What else?
Directly.
What do you mean by directly?
Like explicitly state what you're going to be.
I mean this by directly. Right in your face. Okay? That's what what is a thesis? It's an argument.
I'm telling you what I'm going to tell you.
Bingo! You slap me across the face. Verbally. That's what a thesis does. A thesis takes a stand. All right? A thesis is not, I should read it from, I had to rant today on Facebook. No names were used. And then I sent it to my family. A thesis is not. These two characters, Henry IV and Henry V, had many similarities and differences. Now I'm hearing snickers. Why?
Such as?
Okay, such as. But what did that sentence just really tell you?
Nothing.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing at all. Why? Many similarities and differences. 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 Everything has similarities and differences. Once you compare one thing with something else, right? Henry V and Henry IV, they're both men. Similarities. Do you really want to argue that point? I don't think so. Okay? So it's got to be something that you are taking a stand on. Okay? So you got to craft that thesis in such a way that I know where you really stand. Okay? What else? Topic sentences. I apologize if this is beneath you. And I'm serious. If you're sitting there thinking, my God, I learned this stuff freshman year of high school. And I know some people who did. I know a couple of high school teachers in Murfreesboro, because my kids had them, and the teachers are fantastic. Okay? What's a topic sentence?
Basically summarizes the paragraph.
It's the first sentence in the paragraph, and it serves as the guide for that paragraph. Every sentence in that paragraph should reflect back to that topic sentence. Yes?
Isn't it supposed to be, I'm no English major and I'm not good at papers, so this is all a big refresher for me, but isn't the topic sentence supposed to be like if to where you can read the first sentence of the paragraph and the last sentence of the paragraph, and you can kind of get an understanding of what it's about?
Pretty much. Everything in that paragraph ought to reflect back. So in that paragraph, I'm assuming, beginning with the first paragraph after the introduction, you're going to have, based upon the requirements that were in here, you're probably going to have a quotation. That quotation needs to be relevant to that topic sentence, you know. A couple of those letters, Tolkien writes that Sam is the hero of the tale. Why? That is, why is Sam the hero of the tale? And let's say your thesis, you say, Sam's heroism, bravery, and loyalty show him to be the true hero of The Lord of the Rings. Notice that's an argument, because some people may say, show me where Sam's a hero. Show me where Sam's brave. Show me where Sam's loyal. Well, what do? Maybe your next paragraph, you talk about Sam's heroism. Paragraph after that, his bravery. Paragraph after that, his loyalty. So let's say you're talking about his loyalty, and you choose for a quotation to include in there, you know, Sam thinking, Mr. Frodo looks pretty thin. I better make him some stew. I mean, you could say, okay, Sam's loyal there because he's thinking of Frodo. What would be better for that? I can't carry it, Mr. Frodo, but I can carry you and it together. That would be pretty good, okay? So, topic sentence, man, that's key. Most of you, if I remember right, I don't think I had too many problems with this. I might have written topic sentence on a few, okay? Quotation, again, it's got to be relevant. That's why I always say now, I think, substantive. 10 to 30 words that fits the context. I had somebody, again, in my upper division English course, had a 2-word quotation. You know, unless it's like die Jesus, you know, that's not going to be a good quotation or whatever it is, okay? So it's got to be a substantive quotation. You have to properly introduce it. A quotation should never look like this. Here's your paper, you're writing along, blah, 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 blah. You end a sentence. Quotation. Blah, blah, blah. Quotation. And then you write along, you keep going. Quotation. Those are floaters. They're just floating kind of like in the air. What you want to do is you want to anchor that quotation. How? You use some kind of introductory comment, which means you don't have a period that comes at the end. You're either going to have a comma or a colon, okay? But that introductory tag or comment tells your reader, you know, okay, I'm going to quote now, this is coming. But you don't do it, I'm not kidding, like another one of my upper division English majors did. Henry IV, Act 2, Scene 3, lines 24 to 7, quote, and then have the quote. Literally, I had a paper do that, okay? And she only had 2 quotes and 4 were required, so she got an F. So you got to properly introduce it. Then what? Notice these 3 things are all underneath quotations because they all refer to that. Context. The quotation needs to be in some kind of context. It has to work within the context of the paragraph you're using it, but it also needs to make sense. That is, you can't take certain words just totally out of the context and expect your reader to understand it. If you say, let's see if I can think of one quickly. And so he told him to jump. I'm going to have 2 questions. Who's the he and who's the him? Because it's not clear from the quotation. Okay? Now, maybe you properly introduced it. Harry, talking to Ron, said, and he told him to jump. Or something like that. Okay? Comment. After you include a quotation, always, always, always comment on it. How many of you have ever seen a law show on TV? Crime and, you know, I don't even remember what it was called. Or a movie. How many lawyers say, Your Honor, I'd like to submit this as Exhibit A, and then never say a word about it. Your quotations, those are your exhibits. That's Exhibit A, B, C, D, whatever. So every time you quote, you comment on it. Why? What are you trying to do to me, the reader? Prove your point, further explain. What else are you trying to do?
Connect it back to your thesis.
Okay? You guys are all too nice. You're all too noble. You're like Harry Potters, every one of you. Louder? Okay. Yes. You're trying to make me interpret it the way you want me to interpret it. You're trying to tell me this is what this passage means. It might not be what that passage means, but you want me to think that. Okay? So you explain it within the context of your paragraph in your larger paper. Okay? What else? And then conclusion. You get down to the end of your paper, and that concluding paragraph essentially, not literally, notice the difference between those, essentially, but not literally, restates, recapitulates the introduction. It brings it all together. So it brings, if we're talking about Sam again, and what did I say? His heroism, his bravery, and his loyalty. In that final conclusion, you refer to Sam's heroism, his bravery, and his loyalty, and you tie it all up with a nice little bow at the end. So that I go, man, that's a pretty convincing argument. That's pretty good. Hey, well done, kind of a thing. Okay? We're excited. One thing I didn't put down here, because it doesn't really fit here. Word count. If I ask you to include a word count, include a word count. Okay? I'm not going to be as nice going forward. So, include a word count. All right, that went a lot quicker than I thought it would. If you have any questions, you can see me in office hours or shoot me an email. Believe me, if you shoot me an email, I'll spend much more time than you want to read on a response. Oh, goodness, how are we going to do this?
It's not that long.
It's not very long.
It's a short book.
It's a short book.
It's not Order of the Phoenix.
It's not, it's not Order of Phoenix. 2 hours and 40 minutes. I'm trying to think what we can skip. We can skip a lot. Okay. So, when we left off 2 weeks ago, when we left off, Harry had just saved Sirius and Buckbeak's bacon, so to speak. Okay? And he got the letter from Sirius so that he can now go off to Hogsmeade without any problems. But what did he learn from Dumbledore? If you remember, I've suggested that each of the books has a scene that kind of serves as a debriefing session. Okay? Where Harry and Dumbledore sit down, and Dumbledore explains to Harry what it is Harry needs to learn. Harry needs to understand about his year's experience, the previous year at school. Okay? The first year was, anybody remember? Talking about death. To a well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure. And then he talks about the 2 things humans choose most are the 2 things they probably worse for them. Okay? The second one, it's our choices, Harry, that show what we truly are far more than our abilities. Okay? So the first one is talking about well-organized mind, having your priorities straight. Okay? Second one, our choices reveal who we are. They don't make us who we are. Okay? They show what's already inside. The third one was a little bit more complex. Anybody remember what it was? Talking about Trelawney and the prediction. And what Harry did for Peter Pettigrew. He says we can't predict the future based on our actions. Why? Consequences do what? They ripple outwards. Okay? So, we end that book with Peter Pettigrew being freed. We have Trelawney's prediction that the servant of the Dark Lord, chained for the last 12 years, at midnight will be freed, will go back to the Dark Lord will rise again, Harry thinks it's his fault, etc. This book begins, and it begins how? Does it begin 50 years in the past?
No. It tells a story about something that happened 50 years ago.
Tells a story about something that happened in the past. Where does it begin? Where do the first three books all begin? Number 4, Privet Drive. So why does she suddenly change? And now we are starting at the Riddle house.
Because show parallelism between
Foreshadowing, possible parallelism.
I think it's because this book is the turning point where the story in itself starts to get darker.
That's very much true. Okay, Sahan?
No, that was.
That's what you're going to say? Stole it from me. Okay, so this one acts like a hinge, like the hinge on these doors, on this door. 1 through 3 are here. This is 4, and you go through to 5 through 7. Okay, it's really key. It's really important. 1 through 3, fairly light. Okay, not anything really super bad happens, though we do hear about a death. We do meet somebody who died previously, Moaning Myrtle, as well as Nearly Headless Nick. Okay? But Nearly Headless Nick, it's kind of comic relief, essentially. Though the way he died wasn't really very comic. So this one, these kind of create a formula. What do I mean? Well, they all start the same. They all start the same. They all kind of work the same. They're whodunits.
Kind of the same, too.
And they kind of end the same. This one, she blows the formula out of the water. That is, everybody's expecting, in 2000, when this book comes out, everybody's expecting it to be the same, and we're suddenly, we open the book, and we find the Riddle House. Well, that's not how it's supposed to begin. Okay? So we find out about the villagers at Little Hangleton and such. And we find out about the Riddle House, and who do we see first? I don't mean literally, but who do we see in this chapter?
Frank.
We see Frank Bryce, the caretaker of the Riddle House. Doesn't live in the Riddle House. He lives in the gardener's house. Who else do we see? Louder again. Voldemort. Do we see Voldemort?
No.
We see Peter Pettigrew. We see Wormtail. We see Nagini, the snake, for the first time. We hear Voldemort. Okay.
I think we see his hand. Oh no.
Do we see his hand?
I don't know. She likes to describe his hand.
Servant gave a whimper. You heard me, Wormtail. He turns. I'm on page 15. Man, these glasses are taking me a while to get used to. Chair was facing Frank. He saw it was sitting in. His walking stick fell to the floor with a clatter. Opened his mouth. He was screaming so loudly he never heard the words that the thing in the chair spoke as it raised a wand. Flash of green light. Rushing sound. Okay. Notice we don't hear, because Frank Bryce doesn't hear the words, we don't hear the words. But what words obviously are they? Avada Kedavra. Okay? So we're told the thing in the chair raised a wand. So the thing in the chair has got to what?
Have a body.
It's got to have a hand of some kind. It's got to have a body of some kind because it can speak.
Have to have a wand.
Yeah, it's a... Where'd he get the wand?
Wormtail.
Good question, because it is his wand.
Voldemort's using his wand. How do we know? Into the book.
Because
Where'd he get it? I mean, originally he got it from Ollivander, right? Yeah, he got it from Ollivander. What happened to Voldemort when he tried to curse Harry and poof, he disappeared? What happened to his wand? That's what I expect happened to his wand. Because he went poof. I don't think his wand did.
Wormtail.
Possibly.
I mean, he would have
It's not explained.
access to the house.
Who's the first one who shows up at the house? Hagrid and Sirius Black.
Because he gave him the bike.
Because he gives him the motorbike. Okay? It's never explained. Now, maybe she does somewhere in Pottermore. But I've never, it's not in the books at all. Okay? How Voldemort's wand mysteriously shows up after however many years. Okay? Anyways. So the first chapter, we see what? Be more specific.
Murder.
Murder. Cold-blooded murder. That's pretty dark, folks. That's pretty dark when just 4 years previously, your 11, 10, 9, 8 maybe year old child was reading about flying on brooms and griffins and buckbeaks, and now your
Touching someone's
kid
face.
sees a murder in the first chapter. Okay? It's not going to be the last, right? This is where Rowling just says, oh, I can be sentimental. Here, feel this knife in your heart. You know, as I kind of twist it around a little bit. And it won't be the last by any means, because we'll see it again in book 5, we'll see it again in book 6, and then in book 7, she just pulls out all the stops. She just thinks she turned into Shakespearean tragedy, because she's killing people left and right. Okay?
I think she just had a dartboard and she was just throwing darts.
Could have been.
Don't
Could
say
have
the
been.
Kadabra every time she threw one if it hits.
I remember when she was writing the 5th book, you know, there was a news story that came out that summer. That was 2003, because I was getting ready to teach it in London, because it was coming out in London that summer. And, you know, there's a news account, you know, she did an interview and talked about coming downstairs just bawling in tears, talking about he's dead. And her husband said, who? And she wouldn't tell him. Had made him read it. Okay? And then same thing with book 6 and then, you know, book 7. Okay? So, the next chapter, what happens to Harry?
He wakes up in the middle of the night with a pulsing pain in his head. On his car.
And he has a dream, right? Who's in the dream? Voldemort, Wormtail, the snake, and some old geezer. And Harry's, you know, he's a little older now, 14. He's starting to connect the dots slightly. So what's he immediately think? Okay, Voldemort's got to be back. I mean, dreamed about him and my scar really hurt. So what does he think he should do?
Tell somebody. But not anybody.
So who's he going to tell?
Serious.
So he goes through his mind, right? Who should I tell about this? And he thinks, Ron. What's he going to tell Ron? So he tells us what he's going to tell Ron, and Ron's going to say, this is what you should do. And he thinks, okay, I'll tell Hermione. What's Hermione going to do? Run to a library. He momentarily thinks about telling Dumbledore, but he thinks he'll look how in Dumbledore's eyes?
Pretty scared.
Scared, childish, weak. He doesn't want to do that. So he thinks, Sirius. Sirius will know what to do. So he sends a letter off to Sirius.
He thinks on some of Dursleys too. For a second.
Does he? I don't think he thinks about telling the Dursleys.
I'm pretty sure it said like he thought about it and he's like, but they cared nothing about magic or anything that had to do with me.
No one in the house with him except Vernon, Petunia, Dudley. They were plainly still asleep. Dreams untroubled, painless. He'd never been able to confide in them. Yeah, it doesn't say that he's thinking of confiding in them. The narration is just telling us what he's thinking. Like, why bother? Okay? But he does think about Hermione, he does think about Dumbledore, Ron, etc., and then Sirius. And so he writes Sirius, tells him what happens. We get the invitation, okay? Skipping a bunch. The invitation is to go off to Quidditch World Cup, again, which is a pretty big thing in this book. At least it seems like it's going to be. And what happens when the Weasleys come to take Harry?
Fred and George drop a
Before then.
They use the flu network.
They use the flu network, and it happens in all kinds of older homes.
boarded up.
Somebody boarded up the fireplace. So when they show up in the fireplace, boarded up in the wall, what does Mr. Weasley do to get them out? He blows the wall out.
Destroys the living room.
Destroys their living room. Okay? Which, put yourself in Vernon Dursley's shoes. You wouldn't be happy about this either. Okay? So, he says, don't worry, I can fix it all, etc. And Harry and Fred and George and Ron get ready to leave. Page 48. So Fred and George go off, then Ron, and we're told top of that page, now Harry and Mr. Weasley alone remained. Well, by then, says Harry, they didn't say anything, and Harry, starts walking towards the fire. But just as he reaches the edge of the hearth, Mr. Weasley puts out his hand and holds him back. Now, I think that means Harry's gone past Mr. Weasley. So let's say the door is the fireplace. Mr. Weasley's back here. Harry walks past him, and he reaches out and stops him before he can get, and kind of turns him around. Harry's back to the Dursleys. Why? Yeah, he's already gone mentally, And Mr. Weasley's now looking at the Dursleys. In amazement, we're told. Harry said goodbye to you. Did you hear him? Harry, it doesn't matter. Honestly, I don't care. Mr. Weasley did not remove his hand from Harry's shoulder. You aren't going to see your nephew till next summer. Because the agreement is Harry won't come home for Christmas, he'll stay there, or the Easter holidays, he'll stay at Hogwarts, which he does every year. Surely you're going to say goodbye. What does surely mean?
Do
Better.
it.
Certainly.
Why does Mr. Dursley do this? Well,
You mean
before you answer,
Weasley?
yeah, Mr. Weasley, look at what the narrator says. Uncle Vernon's face worked furiously. The idea of being taught consideration by a man who had just blasted away half his living room wall was seeming to be causing him intense suffering. Notice what the narrator has said. Notice what Vernon is thinking. This guy who blew up my house is trying to teach me, what's consideration mean?
Thought of other people, other things.
Thinking of others. Respect of others. Manners. Courtesy. Okay? And Vernon notices Mr. Weasley still holding a wand. And his eyes narrow down. Goodbye, then. Notice Petunia doesn't say anything. Dudley doesn't say anything. Of course, we're not aware of it yet, but Dudley's, getting ready to choke on his tongue. Terry, see you. And that's when we see Dudley, eat the tongue toffee or whatever it's called. And so he and Arthur go back. Arthur fixes the house. That's really our... I'm trying to think of other scenes. Yeah, it really is. It's really our first instance in the series where we see Rowling take one character to set up as kind of what's called a foil to the Dursleys. A foil is another character that brings out the inherent qualities of the Dursleys. So Arthur, trying to teach Vernon, let's say, consideration, shows us that Arthur is someone who understands courtesy, good manners. When somebody leaves, you say goodbye. Even if you, goodbye, I hope that car hits you. You don't say the last part, but, okay. Why is she doing this? I could be completely wrong. I think she's beginning, because we're going to see more of it in the remaining books. She's teaching parenting skills. She's going to do a bunch of stuff that's aimed at parents for their children. Okay? Especially in the last book, where we're going to have Harry say some things to Lupin. It's going to be hard to take. So, they go back off to the burrow. Fred and George want to know what happened. Mrs. Weasley's all bent out of shape, like she usually is. The port key. So they take the port key or they go to where the port key is. I'm skipping a bunch. Pages 72 and 73. Who do they meet up with to take the port key to the Quidditch World Cup?
Cedric and his dad.
The Diggories. Okay? So, page 72. Amos Diggory gets introduced to Harry. Merlin's beard, Harry Potter. Yeah. I mean, he's all excited. Harry's like, yeah, it's just me. Ced's talked about you, of course. And what does Diggory say? What do you mean Ced's talked about you? You're laughing. Why?
Basically said, how did you beat Harry? And his dad's like,
Yeah.
But that's not how Cedric.
But that's not how Cedric says it. That's how Amos puts it. Ced's talked about you, of course, meaning Ced's talked about beating you at Quidditch. Of course, Ced doesn't blow it up out of proportion. The way he puts it, told us all about playing against you last year. I said to him, Ced, that'll be something to tell your grandchildren. Foreshadowing. That you beat Harry Potter. And Ced says, Harry fell off his broom, Dad. I told you it was an accident. Yeah, but you didn't fall off, did you, son?
Well, I mean,
Dementors.
That's one of those little side details, little footnote, that. Did Ced know that's what caused Harry to fall off his broom? Probably not. Probably not. It's not clearly stated. Okay? He might have. Always modest, our Ced, unlike his father. But, the best man won. I'm sure Harry would agree. And if I remember correctly, back when that happened, didn't I'm drawing a blank. What house Cedric's in? Hufflepuff, right?
yes.
Yeah, I don't know why I drew a blank on that. Didn't they want to do a rematch
Yeah.
because of it?
He wanted to.
Which is part of being just and loyal and true, hard workers, all that kind of stuff. So, of course, Fred and George want to beat the living daylights out of Cedric. So they go on, okay? And we get to chapter Bagman and Crouch. We meet the Roberts family whose land the thing is on. We see the Quidditch World Cup, which I'm going to skip entirely. Okay? What importance is the Quidditch World Cup for this overall novel?
Krum.
Victor Krum, that's it. It's our introduction to Victor Krum. And the Vila. Because Fleur, who's the Vila. Part, at least. Okay? But it's because we see Victor Krum for the first time. Other than that, it's eye candy. It doesn't serve any bigger purpose. Okay?
That whole Barty Crouch subplot.
Yeah, I agree that. But that's not... I mean the actual Quidditch World Cup, the game itself. Okay, sorry, the match itself, not the yeah, we're going to talk about when we see the Malfoy show up for a moment.
I feel like it's humanizing them, though. Like it's trying to humanize Harry and all the wizarding community, and to relate them back to like real people with like football or sports in general.
It's a world building scene.
Yeah, it is, which we get more of later. I mean, we will hear more about, Ron's favorite team and other teams, etc. Okay, so they get there, and let's see here. Let's go back to, because I skipped that part, where they get up in their seats. Just before. Harry talks to Winky, pages 97, 98. Oh, there it is. 100 and 101. When the Malfoys come in. Okay. What kind of seats do the Malfoys get? They're like box seats. Why do they get them? Close.
Connected.
Close.
Privilege.
Say it.
They're donated to like the hospital.
Because they donate. In other words, they're mega donors, kind of a thing. We could go into all kind of presidential politics, but we won't.
I think we had a scandal like that not too long ago.
So they donate, and we see bottom of page 100. Harry and Draco Malfoy had been enemies ever since their very first journey to Hogwarts. Actually, I think you could go back even before that to when Harry first meets Draco in Madame Malkin's. He really doesn't like him. His mother was blonde too, tall and slim. So notice, Draco's blonde, his father's blonde, his mother's blonde, tall and slim, kind of Nordic looking, Aryan. I mean, she's building that idea, okay? She would have been nice looking if she hadn't been wearing a look that suggested there was a nasty smell under her nose. She has that pinched look. So we hear Fudge address Mr. Malfoy and such, and the Weasleys. And Mr. Malfoy says, "Good Lord, Arthur, what did you have to sell to get seats in the top box? Surely your house wouldn't have fetched this much." Okay? And Fudge, notice, who wasn't listening, so he doesn't hear the slight at the Weasleys, says Lucius has given a very generous donation to St. Mungo's, which is going to figure in later, both in this book and in book 5. Okay? Take that back. Book 5. So we hear Draco and Harry. Ron says, "Slimy gets." Okay? Then we get the Quidditch World Cup, and we have them go off to their tent, and we see all hell break loose, page 119. Trying to get through all the kind of preliminary stuff so we can get to the more interesting. And what do they see? Page 119. Crowd of wizards, tightly packed, moving together with wands pointing straight upward, marching slowly across the field. Harry squinted at them. Didn't seem to have faces. He realized their heads were hooded, their faces masked. High above them, floating along in midair, 4 struggling figures were being contorted into grotesque shape. It's the Roberts family. The people, the muggles who own the property. Okay? Husband, wife, 2 little children. More and more people join the masked group, point their wands up, and what's happening to the Roberts family? They're not being disfigured.
Torture.
Is it torture?
Humiliated.
They're being humiliated. That is, they're not in physical pain. But Mrs. Roberts is being turned upside down so her dress falls down, for example. Okay? And the people doing it are laughing. Ron, that's sick. Page 120. So, they go off to the woods while Mr. Weasley and The older Weasleys go off to combat the Death Eaters and such. They meet Malfoy. They see Ludo Bagman, and then they hear the word, page 128, when they hear something in the brush, Morse Mordre. Okay? Something vast, green, and glittering, page 128, erupted from the patch of darkness Harry's eyes had been struggling to penetrate. So this vast green thing comes out of the darkness and up to the sky. Flew up over the treetops into the sky. For a minute, Harry thinks it's a leprechaun, but then he noticed it's a skull comprised of what looked like emerald stars with a serpent protruding from its mouth like a tongue. The wood all around him, there's screams. Harry's like, what is it? Hermione's like, come on, move. Hermione says, it's the Dark Mark. You know whose sign? Harry, come on. And then Harry hears all around him. And notice, Harry's the one who grabs the other two and says duck and gets them down. Because if he hadn't done that, what would have happened? They'd have been stunned, okay? So, who shows up in the apparating? Importantly. Now, you don't have to name all of them. But who are the important ones?
Barty Crouch.
Barty Crouch. Amos Diggory. Let's stick with those two. What does Amos Diggory suggest? Well, let me back up. What do they find in the woods? Winky.
Harry's wand.
With Harry's wand. And they do Priori Incantatem. And Morse Mordre comes out. So they know Harry's wand produced this spell.
Is it because that Voldemort's wand shares similarities with his that it was able to do that, or was it just kind of like a generic spell?
That's just a spell they can use.
Right, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, Voldemort and Harry's wand both have Phoenix
Tail
Phoenix tail.
from Fox.
So, I mean, in my mind, it makes sense that.
No, Harry's wand was actually used.
In my mind, it would make sense that it would be easier for Harry's wand to produce the mark of Voldemort.
No, not necessarily. I mean, anyone could do it. Literally anyone could do it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why it's done. It's to essentially frame Harry. But notice how it happens. I mean, Harry's up there in that box seat. Winky's right behind him. Harry's wand's probably sticking out of his pocket slightly. And Winky. Okay. So, what does Amos Diggory suggest? Yes and no. He suggests it was Winky. He also kind of suggests it was Harry. Okay? What does Barty Crouch, how does Barty Crouch pretty definitively shut that down? He says there's two people in this wood right now, really, who everybody should know would have nothing to do with making that mark. And he goes on and says, I think all of you know pretty much what I've done to show that I have no leanings with the dark side. We don't have any idea what that means at that point. Okay? It gets told to us a little bit later. In fact, it gets dragged out, told to us throughout quite a bit of the novel. It's not what immediately comes from Mr. Weasley. We're going to hear more later on from Sirius and others. Okay? But he also says in Harry Potter, right? Because he's Harry Potter. I mean, Voldemort tried to kill him, killed his parents, etc. Okay? So, what does Barty Crouch Sr. do with Winky? Fires her. Frees her. Gives her clothes. She's like, no, you know. So they go back to the tent. Page 141. Ron's like, I don't get it. What's the big deal? It's a skull with a snake. Hermione, I told you. It's you know whose symbol, Ron. I read about it in The Rise and Fall of the Dark Arts. Mr. Weasley, and it hasn't been seen for 13 years. 13 years. What happened 13 years prior to this novel?
Voldemort tried to kill Harry.
Voldemort tried to kill Harry. And a bunch of other people.
Well, he succeeded in killing
Yeah, I mean, he killed Harry's parents. But after Voldemort killed Harry's parents who tried to kill Harry, it's not like when Voldemort disappeared, the Death Eaters just suddenly lay down their wands and give up. There's, for about a year afterwards, okay, there are still followers and supporters going out and hunting down people and killing them. We're going to hear, or harming them. We're going to hear about some of those in this book. We're going to hear about more of them in the next book. Because we're finally in the next book, in the Order of the Phoenix. We're kind of going to get a tally. We're going to see who the original members of the Order of the Phoenix were, and how many of those original members are now dead, maimed, dead or maimed, or living. Not a lot living. Okay? In fact, if I remember right, the number is going to come out to about 50% of the original Order are still alive. Okay? So, page 142. Ron's like, I still, it's just the shape. Big deal. What's Ron saying? What's he really saying?
Voldemort's not here.
No. Why does it matter? It's just a symbol, right? It's just a symbol, right?
It's the same guy who winces at his name, by the way.
Depends on where you put it, right? You start spray painting that on Jewish synagogues, and it means a whole lot more than if you're just doodling in your notebook. Unless you also, go from your notebook to painting it on synagogues and stuff. Okay? By the way, that symbol, it's about 5,000 years old.
It's a Buddhist.
No, it's
It's
Egyptian.
pre-Buddhist.
It's Egyptian, isn't it?
It's pre-Egyptian.
Sumerian.
It's a sunburst.
Hope or peace or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Right?
Isn't it
I
flipped?
saw another hand up.
Oh,
Nope.
I was just gonna say that it wasn't. Isn't it the Aztec symbol for like power or something?
That I don't know. If it is, then it means it's kind of universal because it's an Indo-European. All the people that become the languages spoken by the Russians, the Greeks, the Italians, the Germans, the Scandinavians, the English, the French, the Italians, Romanians, the people in modern India, Pakistan, all those places. Okay, so Mr. Weasley explains. He says, Ron, you know who and his followers, notice he doesn't say the name. You know who and his followers sent the dark mark into the air whenever they killed. So it's what kind of symbol? It's like a warning. The terror it inspired, you have no idea. You're too young. And they're going to hear that a few times. And then finally, right around, when is it? It's after Christmas. They're going to meet Sirius and Hogsmeade. And Sirius is going to say, and Ron's going to go, we keep hearing that. Why don't you try us? And Sirius gets this big grin on his face like, yes, all right. I'll treat you like, shut up, Siri. I'll treat you like an adult, okay? So, just picture coming home and finding the dark mark hovering over your house and knowing what you're about to find inside. Well, see, that's what Hagrid and Sirius found over the Potter house.
Did they know when Voldemort had managed to put it up in the air? He was then.
Would have been before.
Oh, he does.
So there's silence. And Bill mentions Death Eaters. And Harry's like, well, golly gee, Mr. Bill, what are Death Eaters? Because he's never read a history book in his life, apparently. It's what you-know-who's supporters called themselves. I think we saw what's left of them tonight. The ones who managed to keep themselves out of Azkaban. Mr. Weasley, can't prove it was them, Bill. Probably was. Okay, Ron, we met Draco out there. And if he was out there, his parents had the sheets on. Harry, but revolt, he said the word, sorry. What was the point? What was the point of what they're doing? The point? Harry, that's their idea of fun. Half the Muggle killings back when you know who was in power were done for fun. Now, you got to give at least this credit. Modern day terrorists, pick your terrorist group. They don't do it necessarily for fun. What's the purpose of terrorism? It's to terrorize. It's political. It's to effect some kind of change. Okay? Sick, twisted little kids who like to, do things with cats and dogs and stuff. That's for fun. But we all know what they become, right? Serial murderers. So these are all
Serial murder.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. I suppose they had a few drinks tonight. Couldn't resist reminding us all that lots of them are still at large. But if they were Death Eaters, said Ron, why did they disapparate when the Dark Mark came? I mean, if they saw the Dark Mark, when they go, he's back. Use your brains, Ron. Ron's kind of like Harry, not you need a 45-watt bulb in a 90-watt box. If you really were Death Eaters, they really were Death Eaters, they worked very hard to keep out of Azkaban when you know who lost power, told all sorts of lies about him, forcing them to kill and torture people. I bet they'd be even more frightened than the rest of us. They denied they'd ever been involved. And they went back to their daily lives. I don't reckon he'd be overpleased with them. You? Okay. Mayhem at the Ministry. Oh, what's Percy doing, by the way?
Gaining power slowly.
Gaining power slowly. Okay. What else?
Being a prick.
He's Percy. Okay, it goes with the name. Works at the Ministry of Magic, right? Works for whom? Barney Crouch. Okay. What's his big task that we've seen him working on at the Burrow? Cauldron bottom thicknesses, because those are really important.
It needs to be standardized.
It has to be standardized because you don't want unthick cauldron bottoms.
Leakages.
So they get home, and what does Percy do? Almost immediately, he blames his dad. You shouldn't have talked without speaking to, your head of department, essentially. Who is this head of department? Well, in one of the books, it's Arthur, because he's the only one in it. So, Arthur, should I do? I don't know.
What do you think? Yes.
Why is there mayhem at the Ministry? Is it because Arthur spoke to the press? So why is there mayhem?
Oh, he's back.
Louder.
It's because of what the press did.
What did the press do? Who was the press?
Rita Skeeter.
Skeeter. Okay. Based upon what you know from later reading of the book and other books, you don't really need to say more than that. This is where we start to see, I think, Rowling take a lot of shots at the press, at journalism, at the media. Okay. Probably because of how she was treated. So, they go back to school, and we hear, page 165, they're on the Hogwarts Express. Hermione overhears Draco. Father actually considered sending me to Durmstrang rather than Hogwarts, He knows the headmaster, you see. Well, you know his opinion of Dumbledore. The man's such a mudblood lover. And Durmstrang doesn't admit that sort of riffraff. Durmstrang comes from, probably, German phrase, Sturm und Drang, which means storm and stress. It's a D-R-A-N-G. Okay? It was a literary movement in the late 18th century, early 19th century, where you kind of create these characters and you put them in a crucible of sorts, put them in a pressure cooker, really ramp up the pressure and kind of see how they act. Okay? So there's a school named Durmstrang. You think this is a school for the warm fuzzies. This is a school where everybody's taught to be tolerant.
It's not all that.
Yeah. And it's not Bobaton, which is the other one. Okay? So, what does this also tell us about Draco? Why is he at Hogwarts and not at Durmstrang?
Because he couldn't handle it.
Nope.
Because his mother wanted him.
Bingo. Which tells us what about Draco?
He's a mama.
He's a mama's boy.
He couldn't handle it either.
It's not what we're told. His father wanted him to go there. So if his father wanted him to go there, his father thought he could handle it. His mama doesn't want him to go there. Why?
That's what one says goes.
Okay.
Snake.
Happy wife, happy life. I won't say anymore. You can go from this book to the end of book 7.
Snake.
None wants out of it. She's
It
not a
might be
horrible.
that Narcissa is not a true believer.
She's not a horrible mother.
She's not, well, she's not a horrible mother. Okay?
Yeah, horrible.
Snape's out.
Ooh.
She's not like all the
Yeah, we could talk about her sister. Okay, so they go on to the school, and we hear about the Triwizard Tournament. But before we do, we get a Sorting Hat song. We had a Sorting Hat song in the first year. We didn't get one for the second book, I don't think.
No.
We didn't get one for the third book. We get one for this book, and we get one for the 5th book. Okay? The first Sorting Hat song was kind of silly, but it did tell us some qualities of the 4 founders. This one gives us a little more information. The Sorting Hat song we will hear in the next book is going to radically change. So, 176 and 77. 1,000 years or more ago, when I was newly sown. So what has the Sorting Hat just told us?
He's 1,000
It's
years.
1,000 years old. There live 4 wizards of renown whose names are still well known. Bold Gryffindor from Wildmoor, fair Ravenclaw from Glen, sweet Hufflepuff from Valley Broad, shrewd Slytherin from Finn. Okay? 4 different kind of topographical areas, probably Scotland, because that's more likely what it is. They shared a wish, hope, a dream. They hatched a daring plan to educate young sorcerers. Thus Hogwarts School began. Notice, they share. They have the same wish, hope, dream. So they start Hogwarts. Now, each of these 4 founders formed their own house, for each did value different virtues in the ones they had to teach. Gryffindor, the bravest were, prized far beyond the rest. So in this book, we're told Gryffindor values bravery more than anything else. Okay? Ravenclaw, smartest. Hufflepuff, diligence, that is hard workers. Slytherin, power hungry. Okay? They love those of great ambition. Well, what did the Sorting Hat tell Harry when he first put it on? It would have been good Slytherin. What else? The thing on the one quiz. A thirst to prove himself. That's ambition. Okay? So, these are the qualities they want to instill. While still alive, they did divide their favorites from the throng. The throng. Here's the throng. First years. Okay? When they're first years, when they get off the boat with Hagrid, and they land at the foot of the castle, and they march up to the castle, and they go through the doors and into the Great Hall, they are what? They're just first years. They're incoming members of Hogwarts. They are not Gryffindors, Ravenclaws, Hufflepuffs, or Slytherins. Or the throng. So they have to be what? Divided. Yet how to pick the worthy ones when they were dead and gone. How to pick the worthy ones. That is, how to get somebody for Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff, and Slytherin when these 4 people are all dead. How are we going to put more people in the houses? 'Twas Gryffindor who found the story, and I just remembered, I forgot to give you a quiz. Blankety blank.
That's fine. You can give it to us.
I'll give it to you at the end. I'll finish with not much time. 'Twas Gryffindor who found the way. He whipped me off his head. The founders put some brains in me so I could choose instead. So who did that belong to? We're going to hear in a later book, there's only one thing of Godric Gryffindors that still survives from Godric Gryffindor. We've already seen it. The sword. It's not true. There's the sword and the hat. Okay?
That's pretty much
that.
he just had the hat, or is the hat like made out of his hair or something?
He whipped me off his head. I don't think he's talking about he scalped himself.
It might be the only thing that's truly Gryffindor's left, because the very next line is that the founders put some brains in.
They put their brains in the hat. But the hat was Gryffindor's. Right? The founders put some brains in me so I could choose instead. And notice, in book 2, what does the sword come out of? Is that what you're going to say? Sorry, took away your thunder. So I could choose instead. Now slip me snug about your ears. I've never yet been wrong. I'll have a look inside your mind and tell where you belong. Okay? So we see various people sorted. Then we hear, we meet Mad-Eye Moody. We hear about the Triwizard Tournament and chapter, whatever that is, 13, Mad-Eye Moody. Okay, there's a bad article in the news about Arthur Weasley, or Arnold Weasley as he's called. Malfoy wants to rub Ron's nose in it and pick up with 204. So Malfoy slights Ron's mother. Now, Harry spent the summer there, right? Most of it. Malfoy says, picture of your parents. Your mother could do with losing a bit of weight, couldn't she? Ron, shaking with fury. Everyone's staring at him. Get stuffed, Malfoy, said Harry. Come on, Ron. Oh, yeah? You were staying with them this summer, weren't you, Potter? So tell me, is his mother really that porky, or is it just the picture? Your mother, and notice, Harry, it's not like Harry has to pause and think. It's just instantaneous. Your mother, Malfoy, that expression she's got, like she's got dung under her nose, has she always looked like that, or is it just because you were with her? So, I see your mother insult, and I raise you. Mother insult, Malfoy's pale face went slightly pink. Don't you dare insult my mother. She's a goddess, Keep your fat mouth shut, and Harry turns his back to him. And we hear, bang! Malfoy tries to curse him. Oh, no, you don't, laddie. Harry spins around, and there's Moody limping down the staircase. And Moody's got his wand pointed, and Harry turns and looks. And where Malfoy was is Ron's favorite memory of all time, a bouncing white ferret. Did he get you? Harry goes, no. Leave it. Harry's not you, him, he says. And there's Crabbe, who just frozen, about to pick up the white ferret. Okay? Goyle, and the ferret tries to run up. I don't think so. And the ferret, when Moody does this, flies into the air about 10 feet. So, about the top of that door frame. And then he does what? Wham! Now, a couple of my kids, one of my kids, used to have ferrets. You drop a ferret from, if this is the ground from like here, you'll break its back. They are extremely fragile, all right? 10 feet onto a stone flagged floor. So, I don't like people who attack, win, and just down, down, down. Okay? Never do that. Moody! McGonagall comes in. They're both Scottish. Hello, Professor McGonagall. And she comes out. She goes, what are you doing? Teaching. Moody's a student. Yep. No, we don't use transfiguration for that. She's the transfiguration teacher. She doesn't want him ruining her discipline for all the students. I think probably it has just the opposite effect. I want to learn how to do that, so I can do that to Malfoy when his back's turned to me. Okay? We give detentions, Moody, or speak to the offenders out of house. And he goes up to Malfoy. You're out of house. That'll be Snape, will it? He goes, another old friend. And you got to imagine the students' ears are just burning. Okay? So,
I think they're too enthralled.
say that again?
I think they're too enthralled to have their ears burning. About.
Yeah, it could be. Question?
So, Moody,
In the movie. Probably can't answer it, but go ahead.
was he kind of taking out his anger at Lucius on Draco in that moment? Because think of who he is without spoiling anything away.
Well, we're going to spoil it soon.
Okay.
So.
Today was spoiled.
Because he continues to say, I've got my eye on you, like, almost.
Yeah, it could be, but I don't even think you have to go to the movie because it's pretty clear from the book. Yeah, I think so.
Or he's just so psychopathic he really doesn't care.
He also helps Harry throughout the entire
Lead with that
book.
announcement.
Or it's kind of-
Well, I mean,
So,
Oh my God.
they go off to Defense Against the Dark Arts. And Moody's the teacher. Describe Moody as teacher.
Learn by doing.
Learn by doing. Practical teaching. Okay? He's not into theory. Okay?
He teaches them the
Constant vision.
Describe him as teacher.
Oh, crazy.
erratic.
Is he good or bad? Is he a good teacher or a bad teacher?
He's
Is he Gilderoy Lockhart or is he Remus John Lupin?
He's
Neither.
controversial. He's in the middle, like
He's not local.
I mean,
Yeah, he's not
honestly, he's a
visible.
better teacher than Lupin.
Dean says he was a good teacher whenever in the 5th book.
I mean,
he's like, it's too bad that he was actually something else.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so he's a good teacher, but he turned and took it the complete wrong way when he applied the practicality.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, not with Neville.
Don't worry about later.
Okay. Well,
What do you mean? You mean with the spider with Neville right in front of
well,
him?
no, with the curses, because I mean, Hogwarts doesn't.
Okay, so you think he was wrong to teach him the unforgivable curses?
well, I mean, I feel like Voldemort would be really pissed off
Then why does he?
because he's pissed off at Voldemort.
No.
I don't know.
I think he's the only one who knows.
I mean, he literally teaches Harry how to defend himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he's got
Maybe there's a reason.
He's a good teacher. If you consider good, teaching somebody how to do something that they will need later in life. I mean, you mentioned, what's his motto? Constant vigilance. Summer of 2005, I think I've told the story before. If I haven't, I'll tell it very shortly. The day before we flew to London, I was teaching my Harry Potter course in London that summer. Day before we flew to London was when London had the bomb attacks. Okay, we flew July 7th. We flew July 8th. It was July 7th. Okay, take that back. We know it was the very same day. We left that night. The attacks were in the morning. I've been to London several times before then. Might have seen a bobby, a cop, on the street, never armed, never. Not even down around Buckingham Palace, Downing Street, Whitehall, etc. I mean, yeah, you had the soldiers who were changing the guard, and they're armed to the gills. I mean, they're really armed. But never any cops armed. Not at Heathrow, not at any of the malls, things like that. Or shopping areas, things like that. We got to London, and I mean, like, we got off the plane, got off the gangplank into the terminal, and we would see 4 cops, and not just cops, like 4 cops, like they bred them specifically for this event, walking side by side, and those 4 cops would take up all this space, and they're all walking with semi-automatic weapons with their fingers on the trigger guards. We had never seen a semi-automatic weapon anywhere in Great Britain. And then everywhere you went, you'd see cops all over. And on the tube, So you take the tube to go various places or get on a bus to take various places. They had these stickers, these posters. 2 words, constant vigilance. It was like walking into a Harry Potter novel, okay? So when he says constant vigilance, what's he mean?
Be aware.
We hear the same thing still today. MTSU sent out an email a week or 2 ago. If you see something, say something. I see lots of things.
I see that.
Yeah.
That's a reference to a movie.
Well, this way, why does Moody say that? Assume for a moment it's the real Moody.
Because he's been fighting bad guys his whole life.
Bingo. It's in character for him. Why would he teach, whether it's the false Moody or the real Moody, why would he teach the unforgivable curses? Well, he tells us. Dumbledore says what?
He wants him to learn it.
You need to know.
Doesn't he only teach the Gryffindors though?
No.
Okay.
No, most of the defense against the dark arts class are mixed. Usually it's Gryffindors and Slytherins. It's like so they can practice on each other. Yeah, and potions, by the way.
Because of the fact that Mad Eye isn't really Mad Eye, considering how well Barty Crush Jr. is in character, would you say the entire time he was actually in character, or was some of the times like actually his own personality? Especially like when it came to Harry.
I think it's probably a little both. I think most of it, he's in character. Why?
He could play it off. It's been a long time until the end of the chapter.
He's got a year. I mean, the plan is not to take care of Harry in the first 3 months. It's got to go through.
I mean, and
Okay.
Matt, I was such good friends with his dad. So.
Why else?
He has to
Who specifically?
Dumbledore.
You don't want to, as we see later in here, you don't want to be on the opposite end of Dumbledore's wand. Okay? I mean, what did Harry tell the 16-year-old memory of Tom Riddle?
He's the most powerful wizard.
And he's the only one you ever feared. So if Voldemort feared Dumbledore, you would think an underling of Voldemort would kind of go, okay, I'm not going to. Okay? And we're going to see multiple times, kind of Dumbledore uncloaked. Dumbledore the White, you know, because that's kind of the way it comes, or the way he appears. Yeah.
I think that's with what she said. That's where I was trying to go with the whole Moody and Neville thing, because I think that was actually Crouch, because he knows what Bellatrix and the Neville thing have.
Well, so does Moody.
I mean, and so does Moody, but I don't think Moody would put
Yeah, he was
Neville
kind of
through
like,
that.
well, because the way like he was laughing when he was like,
See, but I don't even know that. Well, hold on a second. Let's see here. Curses. So, pulled out a spider. Neville says the Cruciatus, and he says, your name's Longbottom. Okay? So Moody does the Cruciatus. Notice who brings that up.
No.
It's Neville who brings up the Cruciatus. So I mean, that could just be his sick bastardness coming out. I don't necessarily think it's the case, but because it's Neville who brings up, well, the Cruciatus is one. So, okay, sorry, Neville, got to do it to you. I don't think he sheds any tears for Neville. Okay, so we see the Imperio, we see the Cruciatus, okay, and we see Avada Kedavra. Okay, and what are we told about each of them? They're unforgivable. You do one, and it's an automatic life sentence in Azkaban. Except for when they're allowed, because the whole wizarding legal system is as one of my colleagues pointed out to me, he and I were teaching in London together, is totally screwed up. Because, I mean, the laws can be so bent by Minister of Magic.
I mean, Harry literally uses it in the middle of
Cornelius Fudge.
normal.
Fudge, we're going to see Harry use Cruciatus.
Yeah.
In fact, we're going to see him use it twice. First time he uses it,
It's a fledgling.
it doesn't really work very well. Second time he uses it, he's kind of like, oh, that felt good. Oh, I understand what Bellatrix means. You really have to feel, which means you really have to want to inflict pain. Okay, now that's kind of sick. But look at the differing occasions in those two instances when he does it. In book 5 and then later on in book 7. Okay? So, they do the practice against the, in the later book, against the later chapter, the Imperious Curse. And, where is it in that chapter? No. I'll talk about that later. Okay, pick up with the end of the Unforgivable Curses. Because Harry gets that letter from Sirius. And what conclusion does he immediately jump to? Sirius says in his letter, 226, I'm flying north immediately. There's news about your scars, the latest in a series of strange rumors that have reached me here. If it hurts again, go straight to Dumbledore. They're saying he's got Mad Eye out of retirement, which means he's reading the signs, even if no one else is. Next page, 227, we're told Sirius, Harry, thinking of Sirius, he's got his pajamas on, he's in his 4-poster. If Sirius came back and got caught, it would be Harry's fault. No, it wouldn't. Whose fault would it be?
Sirius.
Jump to the end of book 5. Shut up, Sirius.
Serious.
Or Sirius. Why? Without saying anything.
Because he decided to go.
Because Harry, both instances, Harry thinks, I made him do this. He didn't. In saying, I made him do this, what is Harry taking away from Sirius? Think of this chapter, think of the title. Taking away Sirius's free will is a metaphorical Imperio. When you do Imperio, you're taking away that person's free will. You're taking away that person's will, period. By Harry saying, if he comes up here and he gets caught, it's my fault. Harry's kind of removing Sirius's ability, Sirius's freedom to choose as he pleases. Okay? What's Sirius's free will tell him to do?
Consult Harry.
Protect your godson at all costs. What did his free will tell him at the end of Prisoner of Azkaban when he was talking with Peter Pettigrew? Then you should have died. It's not the end of the sentence.
We would have done
As we would have done for you. Okay? If he just had that, Harry thinks if I just shut up, if I just kept it to myself, Sirius wouldn't be in trouble. Okay? So, we have the next two schools come, Beauxbaton and Durmstrang. Anybody know what Beauxbaton means? Beau, beautiful, baton, wand. Beautiful wands, beautiful sticks, pretty sticks. Okay? They're Vila. They're not very useful, the Vila. They're not very good, as it kind of turns out. So the chapter after that, Goblet of Fire, where we get told what the Goblet of Fire is and what it will do. In page 256, Dumbledore's telling them all about the Goblet of Fire. It's going to be put down here at the entrance hall, and I'm going to draw an age line around it. What's the age line for?
Keep young people out.
Keep people under a certain age out. Why? Why? Why is there an age line?
It's like
It's just like the drinking and lottery laws in the U.S.
Kind of.
Early
cares?
You could die.
You could die, except you can't in this one. We're told no one will die. The rules have been changed.
People have died in the past.
In previous Triwizard tournaments, people died, but we're not going to allow that to happen because we live in a more enlightened age. Okay?
Is it because 17-year-old, that's like top tier of the school in classes, seniority, they're going to be the best of the best
Yeah.
instead of putting the freshman
Yep, all true. And what else is 17 in the wizarding world? Age of adulthood. It's R18. So it's like, it's your own, you get killed, kid. It's not the school's fault. We're, it's like indemnification sort of thing.
Sounds
Okay?
good.
So,
You said before.
You put your
what do Fred and George do?
potion.
They use an aging potion. Big old beards, and it doesn't work. So, Hermione comes up with what idea that we've not talked about at all?
The free the house elves.
Spew. What's another spelling for not the one Hermione, but the real word, spew? It's this. It means to vomit.
Oh.
Hers is SPEW, Society for the Protection of Elfish Welfare. Why? Why do house elves need welfare,
people like Malfoy.
protection?
Like what happened to Lincoln.
She's doing it because of Winky, and what else did she learn during the feast?
Hogwarts owns a lot of
House elves run the kitchen, house elves do all the cleaning, house elves turn the beds, house elves bring up their bed warmers when they need them. And she's, like, well, I'm going to free the house elves. Okay? Makes a big deal out of it in this book, somewhat in book 5, and then what happens? Book 6 and 7 with Spew. Yeah. Out the window.
Priorities.
More important priorities. What else? We're going to hear from Hagrid an awful lot about Spew. Okay? What must Hermione do to the house elves to get them to accept the idea of freedom?
Show them freedom.
They've seen it, right? Dobby's there.
change them almost change them their morals completely.
How?
Period occurs.
No,
It could work.
It could.
I don't think it could. House elves magic is different than wizard's magic. I don't think you could put an Imperial on a house.
She has to establish a relationship and trust with them, even since
Okay. Has to establish a relationship possibly with them. What does she really have to do to them? She has to get them to think what about their existence? That it sucks. That they are enslaved. Does free Dobby feel enslaved? He's not, right? And yet he works at Hogwarts. He does everything an enslaved house elf does. He does get a little pay. He does get vacations, etc. Why can't Dobby persuade any others?
Historically, that's frowned upon to be paid for your work.
I mean,
As a
he's
helper.
free. He's still working. So.
It kind of goes against the house elf nature. Is that suggesting house elves want to be slaves? No, it's not.
It's just what they've been raised with.
work.
What they grew up with. It's what they were told by other house elves, and that was the mantra that was instilled in them.
Okay, but they still have Dobby to quote unquote teach them the light. To teach them that.
They also
If
have to
you-
work
if you
under
broke-
someone who could or is willing to pay them, free them.
Okay.
So,
But how does Dumbledore treat house elves?
well,
Kindly. How else? We're gonna hear Sirius.
However, they
Say-
want to be treated.
We're gonna hear Sirius say, "You want to take the measure of a man? See how he treats his inferiors." He's gonna say that when Harry, Ron, and Hermione. I'm assuming those people who left are not gonna make. He's gonna say that to Harry, Ron, and Hermione, and then later on, that's gonna kind of get thrown back in his face. Okay, kind of. I don't want to say anymore. Because what does it mean? We're going to see in book 5 when Harry has his trial and Harry goes to the Ministry of Magic for the first time. He goes in that atrium and there's that beautiful statue. It's like a fountain. And there's the wizard holding his wand up. And there's the witch just slightly lower, looking adoringly up at him. And there's a centaur and a house elf and a goblin looking worshipingly up at the 3, or at the 2. And Dumbledore's going to tell Harry at the end, that statue we broke, that was a lie. Why? Because we haven't acted in such a way to kind of endear ourselves to these other magical creatures. We have enslaved them. Okay? Which is why, when we get to the end of this novel, what's going to be one of Dumbledore's, no, take that back, what's going to be his first piece of advice to Cornelius Fudge?
send a commune out to the giants.
Send an envoy to the giants. Let's get the giants on our side. The giants are one of the, quote-unquote, outcasts in the magical world. Okay? Dumbledore says treat others how?
How you want to be treated.
It's the golden rule kind of a thing. Okay? He's just about the only one who thinks that way, except for Harry. What does Harry say to Dobby in book 2? When he sees Dobby for the first time in his bedroom. Want to take a seat? And Dobby, blows a gasket. He can't believe he's being asked to take a seat. And Harry says, "Man, I thought I had it bad. I've only got to, I got to stay here another 4 weeks. This is your life. Is there anything I could do?" And Dobby's, I didn't know about your goodness, blah, 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 blah. Okay? The point is, she introduces, this, what do I want to call it? This program that Hermione wants to do, okay? And then shoots it down or doesn't further it. And I think that's probably partially because Rowling realizes, I could be wrong here. I could be entirely wrong. I probably am. Rowling realizes we can only affect so much change. Some change has got to come from where?
The top of the hierarchy.
No, not the top.
The other side.
Bottom.
It's got to come from within. It's got to come from the bottom.
The elves have to want
The
change.
elves have to want it. That is, it's got to come from within them, not from Hermione telling them, "You're slaves. Your life is horrible. Your life is rotten." Because the house elves don't think of their lives as horrible and rotten, do they?
They actually
They like working. It's what they enjoy doing. Okay.
Germans.
Okay, skip a bunch. So go to the actual Goblet of Fire. So the names come out. Who do you know was going to come out of Durmstrang? Once you saw he was there. Victor Crumb, right? Okay. Beaubaton, Fleur Delacour. Anybody know what her name means? Flower of the heart. Fleur, flower, Delacour, of the heart. Okay? Hogwarts,
Has to be Cedric.
pretty boy, Cedric Diggory.
I mean, they don't just go to the beginning of the novel for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, you saw him at the beginning, okay? And then Harry's name comes out. So, Harry has to go back to meet with the other champions and such. and we get the interview with Madame Maxime, Igor Karkaroff, okay, Moody, Snape, McGonagall, Dumbledore, Barty Crouch. Okay? We hear the rules read, and the rules state what? If your name comes out, you have to play. What if Harry to go? I don't want to play. I'm not gonna play your silly game. What do? Zap them? Okay. So,
They introduce Carson and make him do it.
what idea does Moody bring up in this little discussion? Somebody's trying to kill him, and they're all like, "There he goes, Moody. There goes Moody, jumping to conclusions and seeing a Death Eater behind every bush." Okay. And Harry's thinking, "What? Somebody's trying to kill me?"
A lot of mind games he plays is pretty awesome.
Yeah. So, Harry goes upstairs. What do the rest of Gryffindors think?
He put his name
I mean, do they think he put his name in? Whether they do or not, that's kind of irrelevant. What are they doing upstairs?
celebrating.
Man, they're having the biggest party you can imagine. And because they all think what? Cedric's a goner. Harry's going to beat Cedric. I mean, you know that. Victor Crumb? Okay. Except for one.
Ron.
Why is Ron the way Ron is? Say that again? He's jealous. What did he see in the mirror of Erised?
And outshining his brothers.
Him, he wanted to be the hero. Alone. Because how does everybody, really, for the most part, even within the novel, know Ron? Friend of Harry. F-O-H. I was going to say F-O-P, friend of Potter, So, he tells Harry, 286, congratulations. What do you mean, congratulations? Well, I mean, no one else got across the edge line. I didn't say, what'd you do? Use the invisibility cloak? Wouldn't have worked. Oh, right. I thought you might have told me. Would have covered both of us, wouldn't it? But you found another way, didn't you? I didn't do it. Well, somebody else did. Why would somebody else put your name on there? I don't know. Kill me. You could tell me the truth. So by saying you can tell me the truth, what is Ron saying Harry's been doing for the last 2 minutes?
Lying.
Has Harry ever shown any inclination to Ron to lie? Not really. Okay. So we get the weighing of the wands. We see Rita Skeeter again, who's just a rare piece of work. We see the Malfoy's buttons support the real, Hogwarts champion and such. We see Malfoy hit page 299. Hermione's teeth with the dens algeo. Dens, teeth, tooth. Algeo, it's Latin, means increase. And her teeth grow how big?
Too big.
They're, like past her chin. And we see what kind of person Severus Snape is. I see no difference.
That was rough.
That was that's low. That's really low. Okay. And Hermione runs off. Okay, we're skipping much. Ring of the Wands. He gets another letter from Sirius, and Sirius tells him where to be November 22nd, 1 o'clock in the morning. Hungarian Horntail. So the edition of the Daily Prophet comes out with Rita Skeeter's scoop. And we get introduced to Cho, and I wish we could just forget about it. So Harry goes off with Hagrid on November the 21st. Okay? At midnight. It's just before that. Why?
Hagrid has an inside scoop.
Hagrid wants it to be a level playing field. Hagrid already knows Karkaroff's going to cheat. And he's pretty sure Madame Maxime's going to. So Hagrid goes off and he's kind of on his little date, whatever, with Madame Maxime. And Harry's with him with the invisibility cloak. And he sees Madame Maxime, so Fleur's going to know. Karkaroff, Victor's going to know. Harry knows, learns about the dragons. So now Cedric doesn't know. Okay? Skip a little bit. He goes, he talks to Sirius, and Sirius tells him what? 331 and following. He said, hey, don't worry about dragons. We can deal with dragons. Here's fun. Dragons, man. I'm going to worry a little bit. Okay? But he tells him Karkaroff was a Death Eater. You know what those are, right? You know, he was in Azkaban with me, but he got released. How do you get released from Azkaban if you're a Death Eater?
You snitch.
You snitch. And you know what snitches get, okay? So he goes on and he talks and he says, you know, I've been hearing things. Death Eaters are active, page 333. There's a Ministry of Magic witch who's disappeared. Harry mentions her name, Bertha Jorkins. He says, yeah, she disappeared in Albania. Okay? Where Voldemort was rumored to be last. I don't know if it's the reason why she puts Voldemort in Albania, but at the time that she's writing this, Albania, up until the mid-1990s, Albania was the most thoroughly atheist country in the world. See, Soviet Union had a freedom of religion clause in its constitution. North Korea has a freedom of religion. China has freedom of religion. Okay? Cuba had freedom of religion. Albania outlawed God. Period. All gods, any gods, whatever gods. Paganism, the whole nine yards. Scientific secular materialism ruled the day. Okay? And so, interestingly, she puts, Voldemort there. So, Ron shows up, and we get the first test, so Harry has to leave. But before the first task actually occurs, Hermione teaches him just what he needs to know. Oxio broom. Oxio. And 340, 341. Who does Harry tell and why? He tells Cedric why about the dragons. Because it's only fair.
Everybody else knows.
340. So he's blasting Cedric's bag, so it falls. Harry runs up to catch up to him. And he goes, Cedric, first test is dragons. What? Dragons. Got 4, 1 for each of us. We got to get past them. You sure? Dead sure. I've seen them. I'm not going to tell you. Okay? I'm not the only one who knows. Fleur and Krim will know by now too. Why are you telling me? What does that question possibly tell us about Cedric?
He didn't really think very highly of Harry.
Okay.
He thought Harry wouldn't like him. From earlier in the novel, like the book, maybe.
I mean, it's just me, but I think maybe he felt that Harry had an ego that, hey, I survived Voldemort. I'm the baddest person in Gryffindor.
Okay.
Well, not even his ego, but all of Hogwarts is kind of outcasting Harry because
Poor Cedric did read Potter stinks.
Yeah, and Cedric thinks that maybe that because of that Harry's trying to
Curry favor?
yeah.
Okay.
I guess that he wouldn't have done it. He would.
See, that's what I think. By asking that question, why are you telling me? It kind of betrays, man, you're an idiot. You could have a leg up on me.
I don't see it like that. Because at the beginning of the book, he defends Harry. He's like, he fell off his broom.
I agree. And that's why I find the question troubling. It doesn't sound like it fits the character of Cedric that's been portrayed.
Well, I mean, he could be skeptical because, he may be he's very fair, but it's also kind of weird that,
Sure.
But
okay, so look at the very next sentence. Why are you telling me? He asked. Harry looked at him in disbelief. Disbelief of what? I can't believe you would even ask me that question.
Just dragons.
I think Harry's disbelief is kind of like, come on, we're on the same side here. He was sure Cedric wouldn't have asked that if he had seen the dragons themselves. That is, Harry knows what the dragons look like. These aren't little baby dragons. They're not like Norbert, okay, when he got him out of the astronomy tower. It's just fair, isn't it? We all know now we're on an even footing. Cedric still looks at him in a slightly suspicious way. Okay? Cedric leaves, and Moody, come with me, Paul. Diggory, off you go. And he's like, he goes into Moody's classroom. So, found out about the dragons, have you? Harry hesitates. Like, damn, now I'm in trouble. It's all right. Cheating's a traditional part of the Triwizard Tournament. Harry, I didn't cheat. No, I'm not accusing you of that. He goes, and he tells Harry, that was a decent thing you did. Now that's going to be important for later on. It's going to be really important when Moody outs himself. Okay? So he tells Harry, play to your strengths. Harry, he's like Frodo. I don't have any strengths. I don't have any strength, wit, wisdom that you have. Enough. You did great. Don't tell me you don't have any strengths if I tell you you have strengths. I can fly. Bingo. Now, think of the task and think of the film version. How different are they? In the film version, yeah. Where else is Harry flying? And the dragon's taking out towers and knocking shingles off. And here, it's all confined to a little area. Why? Because you don't let dragons loose. Historically, in terms of literature and such, they mess up things. All right, so 349. They find out what they have to do. They've got to get an egg from the dragon. What's in the egg? Clue for number 2. Little bit of historical fact. I don't know if Rowling knew it. I think she probably did. Back in World War II, when Winston Churchill set up what are called the Cabinet War Rooms beneath Whitehall in London, where he ran World War II from the UK side. Once the Brits cracked the Nazi Enigma code, they came up with a machine that did this. Once they cracked that code and were able to decipher it, Churchill would have every morning, if a new message was transmitted that they intercepted and deciphered, Churchill would have brought to him every morning an egg. A little bit smaller than a regulation-sized football. That was golden. And he would open it, and inside that would be the ticker tape translation of whatever the message was. He was the only one to see it. Nobody else. Cabinet War Minister, nobody. Churchill would be the only one. Okay? I don't know if that is the basis for her putting the clue inside the egg or not, but it kind of fits. So, get to the end of the first task. Okay? Actually, in the middle of the task. Page 354, just real briefly. Ludo Bagman. Somebody describe him. What did he used to do? He was a beater for Quidditch. World-class player. Played for England. Okay? What does he say about Harry's flying? Great Scott, he can fly. Are you watching this, Mr. Crumb? Okay. That's telling us Harry at how old? 14. Flies as good as Victor Crumb. Okay? And Ludo would know something about flying. So we get to the end. 338, 359. Ron tells Harry what the others did. and says, you were the best, no competition. Ron and Harry make up, obviously. We get the House Elf Liberation Front, which we're going to skip. All of. What's the unexpected task? Dancing.
I thought it was finding it.
Okay, or finding a date to go dancing. Okay, it's probably all wrapped up together. Okay, so
I'm not scared of dragons, so I'm scared of asking
I would have fought dragons rather than ask a girl out when I was 14 or 15 or 18. So who does Harry want to ask out? Cho. But he doesn't. Well, he does. Too late. Okay. So who does he ask out instead? One of the Patel twins. I don't care which ones. They're twins. Doesn't matter. Parvati. Okay. Ron gets the other, the spare. Just call her Padme. Okay. Who does Ron want to ask out?
Hermione.
I feel like it's never said.
It's never said. But how do you know Ron wants to ask Hermione out?
Because he casually.
Wait a second, you're a girl. Come with me.
When does he realize you're a girl?
After she already has a date.
I mean, it's before, and she's like, but I've already got a date. Okay, now what's happened between when Malfoy does this and this point?
Her teeth are back.
She goes to Madame Pomfrey. Notice her parents are orthodontists. She doesn't go to mom and dad. She goes to Madame Pomfrey, and she shrinks them out. She says, now tell me to stop when they're where they should be, where they were. And she doesn't stop where they were because she had buck teeth before. And she gets them all shrunk so they're out, nice and out, straight, perfect, etc. So that when she comes down for the Yule Ball, comes down the staircase, cue your Cinderella film. She's like Cinderella. Okay? Nobody recognizes her. And who's her date? Vicky, as Ron likes to call him. Ron considers her dancing with Victor Crumb as what? He uses a phrase. Fraternizing. It's a military legal phrase. Fraternizing with the enemy. Okay?
It's funny because he revered Ron until this moment.
Yeah.
Shows how he feels.
He's a fan.
Shows you how he feels about Hermione. Goes back to Mudblood, and he tries to zap Malfoy and hits himself. Okay? Ron's just, it's all built up inside. It's going to come out, So the Yule Ball. Skip the ball itself because Harry and Ron, how do they treat the Patel twins? Who are drop dead gorgeous according to the descriptions of them.
The two most beautiful one in their class or something.
And that includes Hermione because Hermione's in their class, okay? In lavender brown or whatever her name is that Ron hooks up with essentially in the next book. So, Harry and Ron leave the Yule Ball. And what do they overhear? A couple of things, right?
It's growing darker or darker.
Severus and Lude.
Snape and Karkaroff.
About how his marks can come.
And they're saying it's coming back. It's getting more visible. What else do they overhear? Hagrid and Madame Maxine.
Hagrid's a half giant.
Which Hagrid's a half giant. She's
Not, and she's not.
she's a big woman. She's full giant. Okay? She's full giant. Hagrid's, it's okay. And she is offended. Rita Skeeter's scoop comes out next. We hear about Dumbledore's giant mistake. What does Hagrid do? Locks himself away in his cabin. Won't come out. So, let's see here. Hermione says some stuff about Rita Skeeter. She kind of warns Hermione. Page 455. Harry, Ron, and Hermione go to Hagrid's. This is after they've been at Hogsmeade. They go to Hagrid's. Dumbledore in 454 says, I refuse to accept your resignation. And they beg him to come back. Dumbledore says, I expect you back Monday morning, etc., etc. And he goes up and he pulls a picture off of his dresser. And he shows it to them. Hagrid, 7 or 8 feet tall. Looks hardly older than 11. So if he's 7 or 8 feet, 11 years old, he's still got, let's assume the human side of him, he's still got another 6 or 7 or maybe 8 years growing to do. So I don't know about most of you guys, but when I was 11, I was probably 4'6". Got to 5'10" in the next 7 years, so he's probably more than 9 or 10 feet tall. Okay? So, Hagrid. That was taken just after I got into Hogwarts. Dad was dead chuffed. At least he never saw me expelled. Died in my second year. Dumbledore was the one who struck up for me after Dad went. Got me the gamekeeper job. Trusts people he does. Gives them second chances. That's what sets him apart from other heads, see? He'll accept anyone at Hogwarts so long as they've got the talent. Knows people can turn out okay even if their families weren't. All that respectable. That just turns what Hagrid says at the beginning of Book 2 on its head. Bad blood. Rotten to the core. Everyone knows no Malfoys worth, fighting over. Because what does he assume there? If you're bad blood, what?
No redemption.
No redemption. You're always bad blood. Half giant, pretty bad blood. But some don't understand that. There's some who'd always hold it against you. There's some who'd even pretend they just had big bones, etc., etc. Okay? So he tells Harry, 456, you know what I'd love, Harry? I'd love you to win. I really would. Show them all. You don't have to be pure blood to do it. You don't have to be ashamed of what you are. And show them Dumbledore's right. So, the egg in the eye. How does Cedric repay Harry for Harry telling him about dragons?
With a clear water.
Is it the same?
No, he decides to riddle it.
Why not? I agree. Not really.
Well, Harry flat out tells him it's dragons, but this one it's like a clue and he's got to decipher how I need to use this egg.
He doesn't even tell him how to get to the clue. Take the egg. Take a bath. What? Rub it or something? Is it soap? He doesn't say, take the egg, go in the water, open it. He doesn't say, we've got to go down into the lake and get the thing that we love the most. Harry did say, we got to get past dragons. He didn't know about the golden egg part. All right? Not quite repaying. Anyways.
Cedric wants to win.
Well, yeah, of course.
Not very
So, I'm going to skip that part. I don't usually, but I got to skip a lot because we don't have time. So, Dobby brings Harry what to help him in his second task? Where does he get it?
Snape's private store.
Snape's private stores, which is not going to make Snape happy. So we see the second task. Who gets down first? Who gets to the captives first? Harry. Who returns last? Why? He wants to save everybody. Crumb gets down. He gets Hermione. Leaves.
He has a connection to all of them. That's the thing.
He doesn't really with Gabrielle.
Yeah.
Fleur's little sister. But Hermione does.
He has a crush on Cho.
Kind of a crush on Cho. Okay. So he's the last one up. And we're told page 505. Take that back. 506. So, Fleur Delacour demonstrated excellent use of Bubblehead Charm. Attacked by Grindelows, failed to retrieve her hostage. Good thing Harry was there. Gabriella would be dead because Fleur's not good at anything. Fleur says, I deserve 0, but she gets 25 points. She put her name on the paper, essentially. Okay. Cedric Diggory also used the Bubblehead Charm. He returned with his hostage outside the limit of an hour. He gets 47 points. Generous grading. Victor Crumb used another form of transfiguration. He got 40 points. Harry Potter used Gillyweed to great effect. He returned last, well outside the time limit of an hour. However, the Mer Chieftainess informs us that Mr. Potter was first to reach the hostages. The delay in his return was due to his determination to return all hostages to safety. Most of the judges feel that this shows moral fiber and merits full marks, but he gets 45. So, Cedric first, then Harry, then Crumb, then Fleur. This now determines how they will enter into the third task. Who goes in first? Cedric and Harry together. They're now tied. Okay? Then Crumb, then what's her name? Fleur. Padfoot returns. So they go off to Hogsmeade. We get another Rita Skeeter scoop about Harry's heartache, or hot ache, I guess. Rita says he's got the hots for Hermione. And page 517, Snape warns Harry about Veritaserum. Literally, Veritas, truth serum. And Harry overhears, again, Karkaroff and Snape. Karkaroff pulls it up and Snape's like, "Night." Says it's getting more clear. Okay? Padfoot returns. So they meet Sirius in the cave. They talk about Barty Crouch because Barty Crouch hasn't been around for a while. He's been missing. Nobody knows where he is. Ron says he's taking a needed break. And 525, they talk about Barty firing Winky. And Ron's like, Hermione, give it a break. Sirius, she's got the measure of Crouch better than you have, Ron. If you want to know what a man's like, take a good look at how he treats his inferiors, not his equals. And he talks about Barty Crouch missing some things, being away. And then he goes on and says, oh, I know Crouch. He gave the order for me to be sent to Azkaban without a trial. Page 526. Ron and Hermione, what? Harry, you're kidding. No, I'm not. Head of Department of Magical Law Enforcement. He was tipped for the next Minister of Magic, said Sirius. Great wizard, Barty Crouch, powerfully magical, power hungry. Not a Voldemort supporter. That is, you can be power hungry, but not a Death Eater. Okay? I don't think so. Well, we're not told. He goes, well, you wouldn't understand. You're too young. Ron, that's what my dad said. Try us, why don't you? A grin flashed across Sirius's face. Why?
He's got to have satisfaction putting Ron in his place.
But he doesn't put Ron in his place. He tells Ron exactly what Ron wants to know.
Maybe it's him being like, they're growing up.
Yeah, I think it's him going like,
They're ready.
this is kind of like Prongs, Padfoot, and Mooney. All right, I'll try you. And so he paints a picture. Imagine Voldemort's powerful now. You don't know who his supporters are. You don't know who's working for him and who isn't. You know he can control people so that they do terrible things without being able to stop themselves. You're scared for yourself, your family, your friends. Every week, news comes of more deaths, more disappearances, more torturing. Ministry of Magic's in disarray. They don't know what to do, trying to keep everything hidden from the Muggles. Meanwhile, Muggles are dying too. That is what Harry expects to be happening at the beginning of the next book. And it doesn't. It's what happens at the beginning of book 6, but he expects that at book 5. Why? Because Voldemort's back. So he says, that kind of situation does what? Brings out the best in some people and the worst in others. Crouch's principles might have been good. So what's he say? Aurors were given more powers. Notice the head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement has the authority to allow the unforgivable curses. It doesn't have to come from the Weisengamat, the big trial, the big, judicial proceeding. It doesn't have to come from the Minister of Magic. He had his supporters. He talks about Crouch's son being caught. Harry, was he a Death Eater? No idea. He died. Well, when did he die? He wasn't the only one. He died about a year after they brought him in. Well, what are we going to hear later? He didn't die a year after they brought him in. What happened?
He got smuggled out and his mother got buried in his
Barty Crouch Sr. brought Mrs. Crouch in, polyjuiced as Barty Crouch. Sorry. Yeah, but not as that. She took the polyjuice, turned into Barty Crouch Jr. While there. Barty Crouch Jr. was then brought out and lived where?
In his house.
With his father.
Under
An invisibility spell and the Imperious Curse. What was the prophecy in the previous book? It was that one who's been chained for 12 years will be released. Guess what happened that summer? That's when Barty Crouch Jr. threw off his father's Imperious Curse.
That's how I could teach Harry how to throw off the Imperious Curse.
And went and found Voldemort. They plotted the plan. They went back, put his father under the curse, so that everything his father's been doing from the beginning of the book, he's been under the Imperious Curse. Okay? So, was the prophecy about Peter Pettigrew, or was it about Barty Crouch Jr.? It's not clear. It sounds like it's about Peter Pettigrew. So, he goes on, and what do we hear about Barty Crouch? Man, he's a piece of work. Senior. I mean, you talk about your harsh prosecutor, so to speak, that's him. Okay? So they talk about Snape. 5:30. You think Snape could be up to something, says Harry? Hermione. Dumbledore trusts Snape. Come on. Ron, give it a rest, Hermione. Well, last time Ron said give it a rest, Sirius kind of put him in his place because he was wrong. Why did Snape save Harry's life, Hermione asks. First year. I don't know. What do you think, Sirius? Sirius is like, I don't know. Everybody Snape used to hang with, what? They were all Death Eaters. And he starts naming them. Rosier, Wilkes, Lestranges, married couple in Azkaban, Avery, wormed his way out of trouble. He, by the way, we will see this book, the next book, and either book 6 or book 7 is going to be on the receiving end of the Cruciatus Curse by Voldemort. Avery will. He keeps messing up. Okay? So, they talk a little bit more about Birth of Jorkins, okay? And they go back. We get to chapter The Madness of Mr. Crouch, where, according to some people, Harry does something really stupid. What is that? No, before that. Close. He goes for a walk in the woods with Victor Crumb. Okay? Why is he going for a walk in the woods with Victor Crumb? Because Crumb wants to talk to him about Hermione. So what's up between you and Hermione?
I don't know. It's actually Hermione.
Yeah, Hermione. Sorry. Okay, Hermione. So they meet Barty Crouch. Harry says, you stay here. I'll go get Dumbledore. Harry goes to get Dumbledore. Who stops him? just adds to our doubts about him. Snape does. But finally he gets to Dumbledore. They go down, and he's not there. Okay? Harry has a weird dream, which I've never been able to figure out. So I'm going to skip it. About the eagle and such. He gets a letter from Sirius. And Harry has I don't know what you want to call it, vision? Experience? Same kind of thing he had at the beginning, where he sees Wormtail with Voldemort, and we see Avery get buzzed. Chapter 30. Harry goes up to see Dumbledore, and Fudge is in the room, and Moody's in the room, and they all leave, and they leave Harry alone in Dumbledore's office. And we get to chapter The Pensive. Pensées, French for thought or thoughts, and a sieve, something that you use to sift. Now, this, I think, is one of Rowling's greatest creations. Just think how useful something like this would be. You've got finals coming up, you're taking 6 classes, and everything's all jumbled together in your mind. Just if you could, take 4 classes out and just focus, okay? So Harry goes in and he sees this odd light, shallow basin sitting there, and he gets closer and closer and closer, and he falls into it. Not literally, his nose touches the water, kind of like through the looking glass, okay? And where does he find himself? He's at the Ministry of Magic. He's in a courtroom. It's the Wisengamot. That's what this is, by the way, okay? What kind of court? What kind of trial? Death Eater trials. Who are some of the people we see? Barty Crouch later. Barty Crouch Jr. and Bellatrix Lestrange and her husband are all brought in. Who else? We see Mad Eye sitting next to Dumbledore. A less deformed Mad Eye. I mean, he's got most of his nose still. Dumbledore's younger. We see Karkaroff brought in. We see Augustus Rookwood named. We see Ludo Bagman. Snape is named. Karkaroff gives up Snape. And who stands up and clears Snape? Dumbledore. He says, I've already given testimony to this. Severus Snape was a Death Eater, but he turned to our side when? When is all important. Before Voldemort fell. See, if it's after Voldemort fell, nothing to worry about. But he did it before Voldemort fell. Okay? So, Harry feels the tap on his shoulder, and there's Dumbledore. Well, before that, Barty Crouch Jr. is brought in. And what do we see Barty Crouch Sr. say to the trial? What is Barty Crouch Jr. and the Lestranges, what are they on trial for? Not just being Death Eaters.
Torturing.
Specifics.
Torturing a bubble.
Nope. It's right on the tip of your tongue, isn't it? The long bottoms. Using the Cruciatus curse, so that when Neville said Cruciatus, and he held the front of his desk, and his knuckles went white, that's telling us, when we read that through the lens of this chapter, Neville saw this. He saw his parents tortured. Okay? Dumbledore taps him on the shoulder. Harry says, sorry, cabinet doors. Dumbledore, it's okay. Curiosity. It's a pensive. He tells him how it works. Okay? And he shows him. He pulls the thing off. And there's Snape. Says it's coming back. Karkaroff's too. Dumbledore, curiosity's not a sin, should exercise curiosity with caution. And so Dumbledore starts to tell him about signs. He tells him about Bertha Jorkins, Wormtail, the dream, Voldemort's letter that he got from the owl, Cruciatus curse. Dumbledore says, I know about your scar hurting at the beginning of the year. I keep in touch with Series 2. Do you know why my scar is hurting me? Page 600. He says, I got a theory. Your scar hurts when Voldemort is near you and when he's feeling a particularly strong surge of hatred. But why? Because you're connected by that. It's no ordinary scar. So did the dream really happen? Possible. Okay. How could he have held a wand if he doesn't have a body? Good question, Harry. You think he's getting stronger? Uh-huh. Years of Voldemort's ascent to power, Dumbledore says, 601. Marked with disappearances. Bertha Jorkins has vanished. Crouch has disappeared. A Muggle has disappeared. Frank Bryce lived in the village where Voldemort grew up, where Voldemort's father grew up, Okay. They're all linked, these disappearances. One other question. Are those Neville's parents they're talking about? Has Neville never told you why he's been brought up by his grandmother? Yes, they were talking about Neville's parents. His father, Frank, was an Auror, just like Professor Moody. He and his wife were tortured for information about Voldemort's whereabouts after he lost his powers, as you heard. So they're dead? No. They are insane. They are both in St. Mungo's Hospital for Magical Maladies and Injuries. I believe Neville visits them with his grandmother during the holidays. They do not recognize him. We'll see whether they do not recognize him or not in Book 5, where Rowling, I think, because of my own personal experience, creates one of the most poignant images in the entire series. He says the Longbottoms were very popular. Attacks on them came after Voldemort's fall from power, just when everyone thought they were safe, unleashed a fury, etc., etc. Harry asks, Bagman? Never accused of dark activity? Snape. Come on, give me the goods on Snape. Mm-hmm. Nor has Professor Snape. What made you think he'd really stop supporting Voldemort? Between Snape and me. It will come out eventually. Okay? So, third task. It's a maze. Harry Potter disturbed and dangerous. Another Rita Skeeter scoop. Harry mentions bugging. And Hermione goes, I got it. So, before the third task, the families of the champions show up. Harry's thinking, well, I'm screwed. Because the Dursleys aren't going to show up. But who does? The Weasleys. But they're not his family. But they kind of are. They're his adoptive family. Okay? So let's just get right to it. They get through the task, and there's Harry and Cedric. Harry's bleeding. His leg is hurt from the spider. It's like the port key's back there. Harry's here. Cedric's here. And Harry's like, just take the damn thing. I'm not going to win a race. And Cedric's like, no, can't do it. Take it, then, says Harry, 632. Go on, take it. You're there. No, you take it. You should win. Twice you've saved my neck in here. It's not how it's supposed to be, Harry says. He's thinking, you got Cho after all, Take it. Harry, stop being noble. Take it, then we can get out of here. Cedric watched Harry steadying himself, holding tight to the hedge. You told me about the dragons. I would have gone down in the front. Yeah, I'd helped you. I had help on the egg in the first place, said Cedric. Harry, we're still square. You should have got more points on the second task. You stay behind. I should have done that. I was the only one stupid enough, Harry says. Okay. Cedric is walking away from the portkey towards Harry. Go on. Harry, both of us. It'll still be Hogwarts. Cool. And they touch it together, and boom. They're portkeyed to a cemetery. Okay? So, they're in this cemetery. On the hill, distance away, is the Riddle house. And there's a headstone. Rest in peace. And we're told, Cedric says, "Wants out, do you reckon?" Harry's been in situations like this. He understands. Someone's coming. Page 637. So they see this person coming. Harry can tell it's carrying something. He lowers his wand slightly, glances at Cedric. Cedric shoots him a quizzical look. They both look back to watch the approaching figure. It stopped beside a towering marble headstone only 6 feet from them. So here's the headstone. Here's Harry. Here's Cedric. There. And this other person is right here. This is 6 feet. Okay? It's pretty clear. And then, boom, Harry's car explodes in green light. Avada Kedavra. And he hears something fall to the ground beside him.
Expert artistry.
And Cedric is now dead. Actually, his arms should be like that, and his legs should be like that, because he's spread eagle, we're told. Okay? But he's beside it. Right? So it's still 6 feet away. So, the short man in the cloak puts down his bundle, lights his wand, drags Harry from here to here. So now Harry gets rope and he's bound to here. But he's still 6 feet from dead Cedric. Page 639, the exact middle of the page. Cedric's body was lying some 20 feet away. Huh? How? How do you get from 6 feet to 14 more feet? It's bad writing. It's even worse copy editing. A copy editor should have caught. That's what they're paid to catch. This is why I think by the time this book came out, they stopped copy editing. They took Rowling's words and they said, money, 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 money. Just print it as it is. Okay? That's all I'm going to point out about that. So, just to point out that's bad writing. So, what do we see? We see essentially like a black mass. Okay? We hear when the cauldron is set up in the baby-like thing. Harry, let it drown, please, let it drown. Bone of the father unknowingly given, and the dust comes up from the grave. Flesh of the servant willingly you will, and he stretches out his right hand with a knife.
That's hard.
I think I would have used a wand and done something to, yeah, exactly.
The fact that he could cut through his bone, that's just impressive.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I just saw an article the other day about a guy in the military saved his unit by amputating his own leg to help the rest of his unit get away. No anesthesia, just, it's pretty serious stuff. Blood of the enemy forcibly taken, you will resurrect your foe. Now, I don't know about you, but if I'm Wormtail and I just cut my freaking hand off, I wouldn't just be pricking Harry's, hand here. I'd be getting a little bit more blood. I can't kill him, obviously, because if everything goes according to schedule, that's the big guy's plan.
We'll run out, little guy.
And the big guy comes out. Okay? And what does he do? I've used this example before. He monologues.
Every villain model.
Every villain monologue, man.
He's got
So we get to chapter the Death Eaters.
8 pages.
645. Wormtail, my lord, you promised, you did promise. Every time his heart beats, hold out your arm. And he's like, oh, master, thank the other one's stupid. Because this is the one with the death mark, the dark mark on it. Okay? Why is it on the left? Why not the right?
Because you hold your wand in your right hand.
Depends what hand you are.
Is it because the Voldemort's one
I mean, doesn't he do this to, like, doesn't he, like, take his wand and put out his arm to summon people? So if it was on the same arm that he used his wand,
I mean, let's go on the religious tangent, isn't it? Because back in the 70s, 60s, they used to believe that writing with your left hand was considered a sign of like evil or the devil.
Well, in Latin, left is sinistra, sinister.
Wow.
And the right hand is the hand of power. It's the right hand of God that does everything, etc. I don't know. Notice it is Wormtail's right hand that gets cut off. Okay. Anyways, I'm just curious why they're on the left. Anyways, so he takes Wormtail's arm, presses it, touches it, and that's the signal for what?
Death Eater.
If you're a Death Eater, you better get your butt back here. Yeah, you better get back here quick. Okay? And he points out, the old homestead and starts talking to Harry Potter about it. So he does give fixes Wormtail's
But he's not dead yet.
hand. Okay? We see Avery again get crucified, 648. Poor guy just can't help himself. So all these people start reapparating. And who did you know?
Lucius.
You knew he was going to show up with the 2 bookends. Okay? Crab and Goyle, growing crab. Who else? Who likes to kill animals? Book 3. McNair. He's there. Okay? Knott is another person. And then we hear page 651. And here we have 6 missing Death Eaters. 3 dead. 1 too cowardly to return. He will pay. Who is that? Karkaroff. 1 who I believe has left me forever. Snape. He will be killed, of course. And 1 who remains my most faithful servant. Harry's thinking, Snape, it's Barty Crouch. Okay? So, he goes on in monologues. He tells, about all the mistakes he made and tells about the things he has done to make sure he wouldn't die. Priori incantatem, he tells Wormtail, untie him and give him his wand. Wormtail's like, you really sure about this, boss? So, he does the Cruciatus curse on Harry, so Harry experiences it directly. All right? And then he tries the Imperio, and Harry fights it off. And then he's done. He's done warm-up. Now it's time to kill. We're not playing hide and seek, Harry, page 662. You cannot hide from me. Does this mean you're tired of our duel? Does this mean you would prefer me to finish it now? Harry, come out, Harry. Come out and play then. It will be quick. It might even be painless. I would not know. I've never died. And Harry thinks, there is no hope, no help to be had. It's not like he's in the basement at Hogwarts and, help me, help me, help me, and Fox is going to come. He doesn't even know where they are. And as he heard Voldemort draw near still, he knew one thing only, and it was beyond fear or reason. That is, it's beyond emotion and beyond thought. Somewhere else. What was it? He was not going to die crouching here like a child playing hide and seek. He was not going to die kneeling at Voldemort's feet. Why? What does kneeling imply? Submission.
There's people watching.
He was going to die upright like his father and he was going to die trying to defend himself, even if no defense was possible. Notice what Harry just told us, or at least what his thought told us. He's going to die how? Keep going. Trying to defend. Notice what he's not trying to do. He's not attacking. He's not attacking. Could Harry attack? Yeah, he could. Could he use Avada Kedavra? No. Moody told him, all of you could use Avada Kedavra on me. I probably wouldn't get more than a nosebleed. Okay? So, Harry uses Expelliarmus. Voldemort uses Avada Kedavra. Why does Harry use Expelliarmus?
Lupin.
No, I don't think Lupin taught that one to him.
Oh, Snape, I mean.
What does Expelliarmus do?
Disarm.
It disarms. Think about the meaning of that. If your wand is your arm, your weapon, it removes it from you. What does it metaphorically mean? It disarms. Okay? Who does it disarm? Your opponent. Okay? So if you disarm your opponent, what can your opponent not do to you? Can't attack, can't harm you. There's a branch, just as I said branch, the name of it. There's a branch of martial arts whose whole purpose is to defend yourself by disarming essentially your opponent. The purpose is to protect your opponent. That is, by disarming your opponent, you keep your opponent from harming him or herself. How? By inflicting pain on another person that does more harm to the person inflicting the pain than it does to the person receiving the pain. What do we hear about the killing curse in Book 5? Excuse me, Book 6. What does it do? It splits your soul. Every murder, we're told, splits your soul. Now, you can use that to then do the Horcrux stuff, but you don't have to. It's not that it only splits your soul if you're doing the Horcrux. So, when Harry does Expelliarmus, and let me preface it, I don't think Harry's aware of this, of what I've been talking about at all. I don't think Harry's, going all zen and thinking, ooh, I'm going to show my love for Voldemort by stopping him from hurting himself. I think Harry's trying to save his own bacon, okay? So, Expelliarmus, Avada Kedavra. And the Jets meet. Red light, Expelliarmus. Green light, Avada Kedavra. They meet and the thread turns gold. And then these big, pearls of light start moving kind of back and forth. And you get the big golden dome created. And then Harry hears Phoenix song. Gives him hope. And it's almost like he hears a voice. Almost like the voice is saying, take off the ring, you fool. Take it off, Don't break the connection. Harry, I know. And the beams of light are coming closer and closer and closer and closer to Harry's wand. And he doesn't know how he knows, but he knows, push him back. And notice, he does push him back. What should that tell us right there?
He's as powerful, he's as powerful as Voldemort.
He's more powerful. If Voldemort can't keep Harry from pushing those little beads, and Voldemort's trying to, then Harry's more powerful. Okay? And what happens once the beads hit Voldemort's wand? At once, Voldemort's wand began to emit echoing screams of pain. What's that? No, that's the scream of Wormtail when he cuts his hand off. Because what happens next? Like Adam's family, the thing, his hand just plops on the ground. So, hand comes out, and then Cedric Diggory pops out. If ever Harry might have released his wand, it would have been then. But instinct kept him holding it. Hold on, Harry. Now, think of this scene in light of the Mirror of Erised. Its voice was distant and echoing, kind of like he's not really there, but Harry looks at Voldemort. Voldemort's eyes are shocked. Because Voldemort's thinking what? Do you think Voldemort understands what is happening? I do. I mean, Dumbledore explains very clearly what this is. I think Voldemort, being the master magician, wizard that he is going, oh, crap. This isn't going to be pretty. Because if they keep holding the wands together, what's going to happen? Not only Cedric, Bertha Jorkins, Frank Bryce, Lily, James, but everybody else, all the way back to Dad, is going to pop out of that wand. Freud, man. So, more screams of pain. And he was a real wizard then. Killed me, that one did. You fight him, boy. There's Frank Bryce. Already another head comes out. A woman's. The shadow of Bertha Jorkins. Don't let go now, Harry. Don't let him get you, Harry. Don't let... How does she know who this is? Is Harry doing this? And he goes...
I mean, Voldemort dueling a teenage boy.
Yeah, I guess maybe. But it seemed, I mean, there's a lot going on in this.
Well, it's well lit.
She and the other two shadowy figures began to pace around the inner walls of the Golden Web while the Death Eaters flit around the outside. And now another head comes out. Smoky shadow of a young woman, long hair, fell to the ground as Bertha had done. Not the hair, the woman fell to the ground. Looked at him. Your father's coming, she said quietly. Hold on for your father. Hold on. It will be all right. Hold on. So notice how things are coming out. They're coming out from the moment that the wand was used. They're coming out from the very last curse, moving backwards in time. Now, if you got the very first edition, first printing of this book, there was an error there. It had James come out first, and then Lily. But that's not right order. What?
No, I got it because you were saying your father's coming. I'm like, no, it says the mother's coming first.
Is that what yours says?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had James coming up.
How many of you have that?
What page is this
667 in the middle.
Yeah.
Get out of here, seriously?
It says your mother's coming, she wants to see you.
Mine says your father's.
Yeah. Yeah, see,
Yeah, mine is father.
that is a printing
Yeah, I have
that,
too.
and yours is in paperback. Huh.
Whenever I got mine as a gift. It didn't even have the 7th book of the box set yet. That's how old my books are.
Yeah, but I don't think, I mean, I got this one before even 6 and 7 were written. So, I mean, it's, and it's got the, I don't, how to check to see if any of my others have your father's coming, or your mother's coming. Okay? So, your father's coming, she said quietly. Hold on for your father. It will be all right. Hold on. He hears her voice, and it's not like, no, don't kill me, don't kill Harry. This is a nice thing from his mom. What's mom saying? Dad's gonna take care of it. Your father will solve the problem. Not really, but. And he came, first his head, then his body, tall and untidy haired like Harry, smoky shadow of form. He falls to the ground, he gets up. Think Mirror of Erised. When the connection is broken, we will linger for only moments. What all does that tell us?
So, I have a question and then an answer.
Okay. Question first.
When she says, or he, your father or mother is coming, that is implying that they're coming from somewhere else. right?
Yes, it does, doesn't
And
it?
it's in present tense, meaning that they've
Yes,
been
it-
serving.
Yes, it does.
So did they make a portal to the way on? Because that's what it reads like to me.
How does Dumbledore explain this later?
Echoes.
These are echoes. Sirius goes, James, back from the dead? He goes, there is no spell that can raise the dead again. They were echoes, mere echoes.
But that wouldn't explain the present.
And it wouldn't explain that they're using words that are echo.
Wouldn't it? It kind of seems like the souls are trapped in the wand.
Kind of seems like that too.
And,
Okay.
and like since the wands are meeting their equal that they're releasing.
Or that, as you put it, the wand is kind of like a conduit. Because, I mean, what does Avada Kedavra do? It kills. We get descriptions of what happens when Avada Kedavra happens. When Moody did it to the spider, what happened? Green light, right? But what else? There's a sound.
Like a whoosh.
Like whoosh. What's the sound? Is it death coming or is it life going?
The soul leaving.
Away, out the door, behind the veil.
Just rips the soul out of the body.
Okay?
Do you think that Avada Kedavra is death, or is it something different, like death in the Muggle world?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
So, like, if you were would you just say that Avada Kedavra is death, or would you say that if a wizard died not by Avada Kedavra, then it would be different?
Yeah, I think if a wizard dies of natural causes, I don't think there's a flash of a green light, for example.
But do you think that they're on the other side of the veil?
Yes. Yeah. I think Avada Kedavra is like a Magnum 357, AK-47. It's just, you can do Avada Kedavra and take them all out. One trigger, one pull, But where they're coming from, that's an interesting question. When the connection is broken, we'll linger for only moments, but we will give you time. You must get... How does he know about the port key? He and Cedric sitting back there throwing shots, inside the...
Welcome to the death world.
Yeah, welcome to death, Cedric. Have a few,
He's like,
You're going to be here a while.
Because what does that imply?
that they're watching.
Okay, it implies that they're watching. It also implies that they're aware of these events right here, right now.
Constant vigil.
Or are they just in Harry's mind? Is this Harry merely projecting? No,
I think
he's not projecting.
Is visual the same?
What?
I don't say it's a possibility. I don't think it's a possibility at all.
No. Why?
Because Dumbledore
Why
guesses.
is Frank Bryce in Berkeley Arkansas there if he's projecting?
Why else?
Voldemort sees it.
Bingo! Voldemort sees him too.
And he's like...
And he's scared, he needs to change his robes, after this. Okay? So,
He's doing that
do you understand, Harry? How else do we, Cedric makes a pretty gutsy move here.
Take my body.
I'd go like, Cedric, come on. We'll come back for it. I'll send others. Okay? Take my body back to my parents. I will. Do it now, his father says. Be ready to run. Do it now. And he says now. And Harry pulls the wand upward. And the others go towards Voldemort. Harry runs. And he does Oxio body. I'm kidding, kind of,
Not Hyaku's Porky.
Yeah, he Oxio's the port key. He gets to Cedric's body, does Oxio port key, because he's got somewhere between 6 and 20 feet,
Voldemort's really disoriented.
So, not much time left. Veritaserum. Harry goes back. Moody takes him up to the castle. Why does Harry go up to Moody? Why doesn't he wait for Dumbledore?
Because Moody is shocked.
Because Moody's cool.
Moody's been a badass all movie.
Yeah.
Is that really why he went? Because
He trusts Moody.
Well, I remember. He trusts him, but I remember when Moody's taking him, he's like, "But Dumbledore says."
He does say that. But he also thinks Moody has Dumbledore's trust.
I mean,
Dumbledore brought him out of retirement.
Moody knows his stuff.
And Moody taught me Imperio, man.
Yeah, he just broke an Imperious curse that Moody taught him.
I wouldn't have lived if it wasn't for this guy.
Yeah, really, because, he'd have had me doing things. So, he goes him back, page 676. So Moody's talking to him. He kind of explains who he is. And Harry's like, can't be. Cedric gave me the clue. Who told Cedric to open it underwater? I did. I trusted he would pass the information on to you. Why? Decent people are so easy to manipulate, Potter. Why are decent people easy to manipulate?
Because they're predictable.
Louder.
They don't see the bad in people.
They don't see the bad in people. They don't expect other people to behave badly because they expect other people to behave like they do, decently. What did decency get Cedric?
Yeah.
6 feet.
Or in this
Or
case,
20 feet. 6 feet of ground. Okay? But before Mad Eye, Barty Crouch Jr. can kill Harry, 679. At that moment, Harry fully understood for the first time why people said Dumbledore was the only wizard Voldemort had ever feared. The look upon Dumbledore's face as he stared down at the unconscious form of Mad-Eye Moody was more terrible than Harry could have ever imagined. No benign smile upon Dumbledore's face, no twinkle in the eyes behind the spectacles. There was cold fury in every line of the ancient face. A sense of power radiated from Dumbledore as though he were giving off burning heat. That's why I said, uncloaked. This is, you don't want to get in on his bedside. So, they find the real Mad-Eye where? In the trunk, like down 20 levels. Okay? So they take care of him. They take Harry upstairs. And Dumbledore questions Barty Crouch. And we get the chapter, The Parting of the Ways. So he tells McGonagall what to do. He calls for Snape. Bottom of 694. Tell you what. We will do this. I know we don't have time because Order of the Phoenix is so I got it. But we'll finish this on next Monday because we'll skip even more of Order of the Phoenix. Because I do want to give you the quiz. The only problem is I've answered it all. So, assuming you were paying attention, turn this off. Yeah.